Yas Marina is a great track, one that I look forward to every year, and this year was no different. After the updates they made to the track in 2021 to improve overtaking and reduce the stress on the tires, every time I hear the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix is coming up, I say Yas Marina! So why do I keep hearing that this year's race was boring? Welcome to Fiends, where the F1 never ends. And after 24 races, it really does feel like F1 never ends. There was a lot to be excited about in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, unless you're the type of person who can only be excited about first place, which is a totally valid perspective. If anything, it seems almost natural to care most about who gets the victory and to not really care all that much about everything else, but in 2023, you get what you get and you don't get upset. And Abu Dhabi was no different. The narrative for this race mirrored the season itself, making it the perfect capper for the most dominant Formula 1 season of all time. Max Verstappen went basically unchallenged for the victory, while everyone else behind him was fighting it out in a close and exciting race. And what a fight it was. Leclerc was making 700 IQ pro gamer moves, like letting Checo ahead of him and trying to slow down Russell so that Ferrari could finish ahead of Mercedes in the constructors.
Tell me the gap between Checo and Russell. If there's less than 5 seconds, I'll give him the slipstream, then I'll let him pass.
And earlier in the race, he was talking about doing something similar, slowing down to make the guys behind him fight it out a bit. While this might seem brilliant, because it is, it's actually kind of damning for Ferrari. Why? Two reasons. One, with Charles in second place, the only reason he would be messing around with the cars behind him is because he knows he doesn't have the pace to challenge for the lead, so he has to focus his attention elsewhere. And two, Ferrari should have been capable of getting at least 3 points out of their second driver, given the pace of their car on this track. I'd love to lay some of this blame at Sainz's feet, but Ferrari's strategic prowess was on full display right from the start of qualifying when he was expressing concerns about how much traffic they released him into. Then in the race, they started him on hards, put on more hards at the second stop, and then prayed for a safety car that never came. It seems kind of crazy to me that they didn't have a contingency in place to pit him with 10 laps to go or something, so he could at least have a fighting chance. But instead they waited until the last possible second and he ended up in P18. I've seen better strategy from a cat trying to get food after she's already been fed. Amusingly, Sergio Perez also had a race that mirrored his season. He had a car that was comfortably the fastest on the grid and wasn't even able to make it onto the podium. Whether he deserved a penalty for that tussle with Norris is debatable, but he shouldn't have been tussling with anyone at that point. Given how fast Max was in the same machinery, it really should have been the two of them cruising away 15 seconds ahead of the pack while everyone else fought for scraps. Max may have finished 18 seconds ahead of the pack, but let's be real. He had so much pace in hand that it's actually surprising he was able to grip the steering wheel. Having all of that extra pace in hand meant that Max wasn't really pushing, and that's probably why he was able to do something that I would have thought impossible. He was able to complete every single lap of this season. In my opinion, that's more impressive than the fact that he led over 1,000 laps in 2023. The reliability of the RB19 was absolutely unbelievable. Normally a driver will have a crash or something out of their control like an engine failure, but nothing went wrong for Max's car this season, and that's why I genuinely believe that Red Bull was sandbagging. At least with Max's car. When Mercedes was dominating, they talked about how they would manage the gap to the rest of the pack to make sure that there wasn't too much pressure for regulation changes. And one of the ways to make your cars more reliable is to not run your engines quite so close to their limit. When you're already winning by 30 plus seconds, you don't need more pace. What you need is to make sure that you make it to the end. And that's what Max did. Every single time. The fact that anybody outside of Red Bull even managed to win a race this season is wild. Normally, there would be a situation where they have a failure in one or both of their cars, kind of like they had at the start of 2022, and that creates an opening for other people to win the race. But that never happened this season. Actually, over the course of this entire year, and with almost the same amount of mileage driven, Red Bull's 1100 horsepower Formula 1 race car turned out to be more reliable than my 160 horsepower road car. It's incredible that they were able to make it all the way to the end of the season without a single failure. Almost as incredible is the fact that Williams was able to make it to the end of this season without even confirming who their second driver is for next year. And on the subject of drivers who shouldn't be around next year, we've got the Canadian positivity guy here with some thoughts on Lance Stroll. Well, you've heard the British guys enough, so why don't you listen to somebody else for a change? 5th place in the constructors. 5th! The entire Aston Martin factory needs to have the "I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed" conversation with their boss's son. Lance Stroll having a contract means the nepotism in him is so strong they could actually start harvesting it and selling it as an injectable shot called Nepo Provera. Surprisingly, it works pretty well as birth control. If Lance was even half the driver that Fernando is, he would have 103 points and Aston Martin would be 4th in the constructors. But Lance only got 76 points, meaning he's actually only 36% the driver his teammate is. They have clearly picked up some talented people for the team, and the improvement in their car's pace shows that. But in a competitive environment, you need to be maximizing results to retain top talent. And I have no idea how you retain talent in a team where it's obvious they will never perform as well as possible because half of the driver lineup came from the owner's balls. And now back to your regularly scheduled programming. For the poll of the week, this week I asked, is Max Verstappen going to dominate 2024 as well? Of the 1,000 people who responded, 36% said yes, Max will go unchallenged. 57% said yes, but it wouldn't be as bad as 2023. And only 7% said no, the other teams will be able to challenge him next year. That's right, 93% of you believe that Max's dominance will continue into 2024, which means that I get to look forward to using this picture a lot more next year. And now for the spicy joke of the season. That's right, we're at the end of the final race weekend update of the 2024 season, and we're gonna go out with a bang. Ferrari missed out on 2nd place in the Constructors' Championship by just 3 points as a result of that unfair penalty Carlos Sainz had to take because his car got damaged in Las Vegas. But let's be real, Carlos Sainz isn't the first guy to experience lasting consequences as a result of getting fucked while on a work trip to Vegas.